Hello everyone. In this module, we are going to discuss about role of heredity and environment in child development. And especially, we are going to discuss a topic, some theories supporting heredity. At the end of the class, you would learn about heredity and environment, and to understand about child development, and you analyze the study support to heredities. Okay, let's see the some introduction about the particular topic. The one vital question has been rising a lot of heat and dust in the field of education psychology, and has been is now as the nature and nurture controversy. Which of these factor, heredity or environment, is more important in determining the nature and nurture of human development? Okay, so in tackling the investigations regarding the roles of heredity and environment, the following approaches or lines are generally used for the role of heredity and environment. Okay, let me see the lines those support to the role of heredity and environment. Okay, the first one is the investigating the amount of similarity between the parents and children in a family. And second one is investigating the fraternal and identical twins in similar as well as dissimilar in an environment. And the third one is comparing the yearly environment and achievement. And the fourth one is nothing the effect enriched on the development. And finally, observing the degree of which training in helps to eliminating the individual's differences, and etc. So these are the important lines which is shows that the role of heredity and environment. Okay, let me see the theory supporting the heredity. Some hybrid experiments with animals as well as experiment on selective breeding in animals, so striking the influence of heredity on the developmental of traits. So the striking influence of heredity on the development of traits, and the maturations, so that the maturations which of unfolding the characteristics of incorporated in the genes transmitted the individual from ancestors, and also exhibit the influence of heredity, and the role of heredity is also determining the offspring of superior intelligence has been made clear in golden families, golden studies. Actually that golden studies support the the golden studies support the identification of genius of 977 great men in a total of 800 British families, and investigated about the relatives, and they were found as 537 relatives. And for comparison of how he prepared another list of 977 average men who had only four eminent relatives. And the Cuthard studies the family, Kalikak family, and Kalikak was a soldier who had married two women. So one is the feeble-minded woman and another one is a normal. And the family line established the feeble-minded women are containing a 480 direct descendants, and among 48 were found to be a normal, and rest of others were criminal and drunkards and sexually perverted and mentally retarded, whereas a 49% of among direct descendants of established the normal woman was normal. Okay, and the same investigations from investigation of 1200 descendants of Juke family. Actually the Juke was fisherman, corrupt fisherman, and corrupt wife, and they revealed that the most of were prostitutes and paupers. Only were two among them was found to be a normal. Only the two were among found to be a normal. And the correlation of IQ, intelligence quotients, lean towards the hereditarian view of intelligence in a study of Cyril Burt and Howard. So that following correlations have been established and support the heredity theories. Okay, let's see the intelligence. let's see the correlations of what correlation have established the studies. Here they established here the differentiated two things. One is the degree of relationship, and another one is percentage of similarity in IQ. That first one is unrelated persons. So that unrelated persons, the percentage of similarity is 0%, and another one is the first cousins. There might be a 12% of similarity has been transmitted to the cousins to genders. Next one is the uncle, aunties, and nephews and nieces, and grandparents and grandchildren. There is a possible to transmitted the 20% of IQ to them, and parents and the childrens and the siblings and fraternal twins, that also have transmitted to the 50% of similarity in IQs. And finally the 90% for identical twins, because they are developed as a single ova and single egg, so that 90% of IQ, similar IQ, may be transmitted to the to the child. Okay, and the same percentage were we can calculate it for the height also. Okay, that upcoming video also useful to understanding the further things related to the topic, and definitely you might understand the topic of role of heredity and environment for the child development.
Now let us move on to the study of heritability of intelligence, an important topic for educators as we are concerned with the development of intelligence in our students. First, we will look at what is heritability. Heritability is a mathematical estimate that indicates how much of a trait's variation in a population can be attributed to genes. Estimates of the heritability of intelligence vary depending on the methods used. Most researchers believe that heritability of intelligence is between 60% and 80%. Even if heritability of IQ is high, heredity does not necessarily account for differences between groups. Three important factors limit heritability estimates. Heritability estimates do not reveal anything about the extent to which genes influence a high person's traits. Heritability depends on how similar the environment is for a group of people. Even with high heritability, a trait can still be influenced by environment. Evidence for environmental influences on intelligence comes from the following observations. Adoption studies demonstrate that adopted children show some similarity in IQ to their adoptive parents. Adoption studies also show that the siblings reared together are more similar in IQ than siblings reared apart. This is true even when identical twins reared together or compared to identical twins reared apart. Biologically unrelated children raised together in the same home have some similarity in IQ. IQ declines over time in children raised in deprived environments such as understaffed orphanages or circumstances of poverty and isolation. Conversely, IQ improves in children who leave deprived environments and enter enriched environments. People's performance on IQ tests has improved over time in industrialized countries. This strange phenomenon, which is known as Flynn effect, which we'll study in the next section, is attributed to environmental influences. It cannot be due to heredity because the world's gene pool could not have changed in the 70 years or so since IQ testing began. For decades, scientists have fiercely debated how much of the variation in individual intelligence can be attributed to genes. Studies of identical twins have suggested that 60 to 80% of intelligence comes down to genes, but the controversy in the past has been, well, maybe there is just no separating out nature and nurture, said study co-author Peter Wescher, a quantitative genetist at the Queensland Institute of Medical Research in Australia. Heritability estimates of general intelligence in adulthood generally ranges from 75 to 85%, with all heritability due to additive genetic influences, while genetic dominance and shared environmental factors are absent or too small to be detected. These estimates are derived from studies based on classical twin design and are based on the assumption of random mating. Shall we see what is Flynn effect? Flynn effect. Students, a phenomenon mentioned where it was observed that people with high IQ has increased in developed countries over the years. This is called the Flynn effect, and we will look into this effect in this section. The Flynn effect is the substantial and long sustained increase in intelligence test score measured in many parts of the world from roughly 1930 to the present date. It is quite interesting to note that test score increase have been continuous and approximately linear from the earliest years of testing to the present. This effect of an apparent increase in IQ has also been observed in various other parts of the world, though the rates of increase vary. The Flynn effect is named for James R. Flynn, who did much to document it and promote awareness of its implication. Researchers think that it may be due to environmental factors such as awareness of proper nutritious food among parents, enhancing of skills through television and video games, improved schools, nuclear family, higher level of parental education, or improvements in parenting. Students, let us try to answer the question, what has caused IQ scores to increase from one generation to another? The ultimate cause can be said to be the Industrial Revolution. It affects our society in many ways. The other causes are things like smaller family size. If you have a better ratio of adults to children in the home, then adult vocabulary predominates rather than the child vocabulary. Family size fell in the last century throughout the Western world. Formal schooling is important. It helps you think in the way that IQ testers like. In 1900 in America, the children responded for a question, what dogs and rabbits have in common? They said, well, you use the dogs to hunt rabbits. This is not the answer that the IQ tests want. They want you to classify. Today, a child would be likely to say, they are both animals. They picked up the habit of classification and use the vocabulary of science. Students, can we say from the Flynn effect that we are more intelligent than our ancestors? That is quite a dramatic statement to make. I prefer to say our brains are more modern and more adapted to the IQ test and to today's way of life. Shall we see cultural and ethnical differences? Yes, cultural and ethnical differences. Studies have shown a discrepancy in average IQ scores between whites and minority groups in the United States. Black, Native American, and Hispanic people score lower on average than white people on standard IQ tests. Controversy exists about whether this difference is due to heredity or environment. A few experts support hereditary explanations for cultural and ethnic differences in IQ. In the late 1960s, researcher Arthur Jensen created a storm of controversy by proposing that ethnic differences in intelligence are due to heredity. He based his argument on his own estimate about 80% heritability for intelligence. In the 1990s, researchers Richard Herrnstein and Charles Murray created a similar controversy with their book, The Bell Curve. They also suggested that intelligence is largely inherited and that hereditary at least partly contributes to ethnic and cultural differences.
Thank you. We will see in the next module.